Ladies and gentlemen, let's continue our building of pages in our book of astronomy. This time it is Mercury and Venus. Last time we finished up the sun and the moon, and now it's time to get into the next part of chapter 1, the first half of it, which is the planets that are closest to the sun. We call these the rocky planets. Okay, quick review of the pages you've already built. Let's take a look at those one page at a time. So, page 2, your distances. Page 3, introductions, all the objects in the solar system, and then the objects beyond that you've already listed separately from each other. Page 4, your sources, which you will continue to rely on as we continue to build our book. Always come back to page 4 because it will never lead you astray. Page 5, your chapter divider page, which begins our first chapter, solar system. Page 6 and 7, we talked about this last time, the sun and the moon. All right, now we come page 8 and 9. You'll see my little face moving around as I get it out of the way of things. But take a look at page 8. That is going to be a sketch that you make of the planet Mercury and every planet on every page. I'm going to use Mercury as an example to show you how these pages should look. We're going to go through this very quickly, pause it at any time to catch up and make sense of it. Here we go. Quick and dirty, and we'll get through this. So, page even numbered on the left side, your picture of all the planets, okay? And on the right side, data at the top, descriptions at the bottom, okay? And the data includes the same set of facts for all planets. So if you really want to crank out a section of your book quickly, write all these things down, pause it when you get to that part of the video or this one, write all these things down for every odd numbered page that has a planet profile. Not all of them do, so be careful where you write them down. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. The asteroid belt has a slightly different set of facts. And when we get to the Kuiper belt and the Oort cloud, sections beyond the gas giants, those will also have different sets of facts. So be careful about when you get on autopilot and start filling in this top section. But for the planets, they are all the same. Facts. Number what from the sun? Mercury, number 1 from the sun. Venus, number 2 from the sun. Earth, number 3 from the sun. And so on. You get the idea. Solar distance. How far is it away? Earth is 1 AU from the sun, average distance, right? So you're going to put, in Mercury's case, it's less than an AU, 0.3, 0.4, whatever you research, put the actual number of distance from the AUs from the sun to Mercury. It's less than 1 AU because Mercury is closer to the sun than the Earth. Number of moons, 0, 1, 2, 17, 65. Whatever each planet has, put the number. Radius or diameter, if you prefer, just give me a size from side to side of the planet, how many kilometers or how many thousands of kilometers it happens to be. Look that up. Mass. Some planets are very massive, the gas giants. Some hardly have any mass at all. That YG, yotograms that you see on the screen right now, times 10 to the 21st kilos. It could be 10 to the 25th. It could be 10 to the 20th. Whatever digit you research, make that one match. A lot of them are 10 to the 21st, so I picked that one as a good standard. Force of gravity. 1 Earth gravity, or 1 G, is the standard for Earth. So for Mercury, it'll be less than 1 G. For Jupiter, it'll be 2.5 Gs or more. You have to look it up and find the exact number. Research it and find it. Day. How long is Mercury and every planet? How long is its day? One time where it spins on its axis. And how long is its year? One trip around the sun. That's a day. That's a year. These numbers you research may surprise you. Atmosphere. Does it have one? Yes, no, thin, thick, carbon dioxide, methane, water, nitrogen, oxygen, whatever the atmosphere is or isn't, write it there next to atmosphere. And then life. Could it have had life at some point in the past, or is it impossible that it ever had life? Do your research, look up information about each planet and make your decision. Could it have had life? Or does it have life now? Or could it? Maybe, we just don't know yet. All right. Now, the bottom section, look down there on page 9 on the opposite side down there, okay? And what it says down there is a space for you to put sentences about each world. We'll get to some suggestions for that. So you've got your data. We've added into that up section. And then we've talked about AUs, distance from the sun. Look, on the diagram right here, there's one for Venus, 0.7 AU. Now you have a data fact for the Venus page. It's already on this diagram. You might as well use it. All right. Let's talk about this next section that I mentioned a second ago. Sentences. There's no right or wrong thing to put down in those sentences below on each planet's page. It could be, what do you personally know about these planets? What do you what's your connection? What's your knowledge, your fascination? What's your focus? You can highly personalize this paragraph. Please fill the page. These planets have so much information. You could easily fill half of a page, this paragraph section, with information. But what could I put? Let me give you some examples. Okay, so you finish up your statistics, and after those statistics are done, may I suggest leading off your paragraphs with something like this. The planet Mercury is mainly known for being the smallest and fastest of all of the 8 planets. Okay. It is also known for, or suspected to be, the core of what used to be a much larger planet. Okay, so there's a sentence that you could just take in any direction you want to. Astronomers believe a long time ago Mercury was larger. Humanity has explored it using the Mariner 10 spacecraft, which did loops, Mariner 10, and it did laps around it, took photographs, mapped most of the surface before it ended its mission. In the future, humanity will likely never live on Mercury because it's just too much of a temperature extreme. Hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. Living in those extremes, especially on a planet with no atmosphere, is a challenge. A very unusual thing about the planet, it's shrinking. Crazy, right? My personal knowledge of this planet, whatever you know. So any of these is a perfectly legitimate way to fill up that space. Mr. Sandrock, do I have to use all of this? Certainly not. Just the parts you choose. Remember, your book. As long as that's factually correct, fills the space, and you have built something you're proud of, you're good to go. So feel free to pause this and to get some ideas. I'll include this in some other videos as well, but this is your narrative section for your planet profiles. All right. So at the very bottom, look way down at the bottom down there, and you'll see sources. Mandatory for every place that you put data that wasn't coming straight out of your own brain, something you get from lecture, sources, Sandrock's lecture on Mercury, okay? Or spacefacts.com is where I added things, or theplanets.org. Boom, that's where I got my information. Check back to page 4 for your sources, really valuable and valid sources you can use. All right. So I mentioned sources. Every single page has to have sources. Don't forget. Stomp, stomp, stomp. It's important. Don't forget. So let's talk a little bit more about Mercury. I used it as an example and gave a lot of facts, but let's go through this a little bit. Huge temperature swings, 400 plus degrees during the day, minus 150, minus 200 during the night when you're on the dark side of Mercury, as it quickly makes its way around the sun, slowly turning as it quickly makes its way around the sun. It's got a long day and a very short year. Its day almost as long as its year. That's crazy. Look up the numbers, add them to your page. They will surprise you. It's always too near to the sun for us to really get a good view with our eyes. So we have to carefully find it, knowing where it is, using our telescopes. The ancient peoples were aware of its existence. They would watch the sunset and notice a small bright light accompanying the sunset and sometimes the sunrise. And they're like, that must be something there. And the planet Mercury was discovered. Astronomers believe it is the core of what used to be a larger planet. Now, was it as big as Venus or Earth? Take a look at the images up there above, and these are sized accurately on the screen. That is the size of Mercury sitting next to the size of Venus and the Earth, and then the Mars is kind of in between the two. So they think Mercury was probably much bigger, but the solar wind and other changes over time slowly blasted away its mantle and any crust it may have once had, so that now it's just the outer core, a thin little mantle, and a dense, very dense inner core, metallic core. If Mercury were to somehow be in a tub of water big enough, which is ridiculous, it would sink to the bottom right away, like a ball bearing. It's gone to the bottom. Okay. All right, and that planet continues to shrink as its core continues to cool from its original formation. So it's gone through a lot of changes and has changed a lot over time. Let's talk about Venus. Beautiful, gorgeous in the night sky, nightmarishly scary, my friends. Pardon my phrase here, but hellish on the surface. All right, let's take a close look. Um, Beautiful in the night sky, so beautiful that when Van Gogh did this painting, do you know this one? Starry Night, you probably recognize it. But may I also point out to you, other than the beautiful village, follow my mouse, other than the beautiful village in the foreground, the rolling hills, you could see the setting sun, the last glow above the hillsides, the crescent moon above, gorgeous. Look right here. That, my friends, is Venus in Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night. He was painting an accurate sky over the village. And I don't think he painted this in one night, but accurate are the stars of Starry Night, including right here, the planet Venus. There you go. You've been looking at it every time you see this painting, may not have even realized it. There it is. All right. Venus is a near Earth twin. Similar size, similar mass, right? And they believe that once upon a time it was beautiful, had oceans crashing against beautiful shorelines. But something happened, and more carbon dioxide got dumped into its atmosphere to the point where it heated up and it got hotter and hotter on the surface until it is hot enough now to melt lead. In fact, take a look at the picture at the top of this slide, the picture right on, up there, that way. Yeah. And See all the scratchy static lines. That's because the Soviet era aircraft, Venera spacecraft, that landed safely on Venus immediately started to melt and fall apart. They couldn't build an air conditioner, a cooling system strong enough to keep this thing alive more than an hour or two until it melted in a heap of metal, unrecognizable, nothing left because the temperature and the pressure on the surface, the crushing conditions on Venus are so severe, anything that goes there is pretty much doomed. So, runaway greenhouse effect, scary stuff. In Venus's case, we can see what it would look like. Atmospheric composition, highly acidic, super high levels, like ridiculously high levels of carbon dioxide, which allow all the solar energy that gets absorbed into Venus to be held on, and it bakes the planet forever. And then the Venera spacecraft were suffering those conditions, and they did not fare too well. They sent us back some cool photos, black and white photos. We can see it does have a solid surface underneath all those thick layers of clouds, but nightmarish conditions on the surface. Beautiful to look at in the night sky, nightmarish. If we were to stand on the surface, you'd live less than a minute. You'd be crushed and melted very quickly. All right. So our page for Mercury, this is now page 8 and 9, Mercury's picture, Mercury's profile, and then page 10 and 11, Venus's sketch. Notice it's very pale, got a little bit of yellowish colors in there, but please don't give me a blue or a green Venus. Venus is not those colors. We never see those colors on Venus. Make the colors accurate. Also, important point, I've mentioned this before, trace some circular object, my friends. Find a circular object in your house, go to the kitchen, take the lid off an old peanut butter jar that's getting recycled or thrown away. You've just got a circle that'll fit perfectly, or a Nutella, or the top to a coffee can, or anything that you can trace and give it a nice, good, please do not freehand your planets. Venus and Mars and Earth and Saturn, they're not potatoes. They're spheres. They're perfect and beautiful spheres. So give nature its respect by giving it a nice, clean circle and add some colors, shade it in, take your time, give it some quality as you build these pages. 10 and 11, Venus. And then it moves on forward in the other planets, which we'll cover in the lessons ahead. I'm trying to keep this brief for you so you can immediately dive in and get to work, but let Mercury and Venus inspire you. There we go. This concludes our video for the two closest planets to the Sun, Mercury and Venus. Coming up next time, Earth and Mars.